What's up, everybody? We got a live stream going. Ben Fadden here, Talking Friars podcast. This is not a real, episode, but thank you for everyone who will end up joining here. News, I'll be updating you throughout the night, throughout the day. I know it's 3:30 Pacific time. MLB free agent frenzy should be starting up. I have MLB Network on the side here. The owners just ratified the deal. They were meeting. They just ratified it. And so right now, it was 30-0. Commissioner Manfred, it looks like, will be having a news conference soon. And Evan Drellich just reported owners have ended the lockout. They voted to ratify the new CBA 30-0 and very soon play ball. So I'd expect free agency to start. I'd expect Rob Manfred to, at this news conference, announce that a deal is being made. And I think that he would announce that free agency can start. That's right. Yep. A2 crazy. So excited to see what the Padres can do. Yeah, I am too. There's a lot that we can discuss here, a lot to get to because of how short of a period of time the Padres are going to have to get this team together. I mean, there's reports out that spring training is going to start in 3 days, I think is the report date. Players can voluntarily start reporting to spring training tomorrow. So, yeah, it's going to be fast-paced, like we've never seen before. And so, yeah, I'm excited. I think we all should be excited. And we can kick this off by just the main question here. As you can see in the ticker below, who do you want the Padres to sign or trade for? Because that's what really we're here now for, I mean, the deal has been ratified. Owners have voted to accept the CBA. Preller going to have no sleep. Yeah, I mean, I've seen pictures already of photographers in Arizona, taking pictures of Preller, hiding behind poles, watching minor leaguers and all that. Yeah, his phone is attached to him. We'll put it that way. So I'd expect Preller to come out, make moves. If free agency does start today, I obviously expect him to get that Nick Martinez deal done pretty quickly. And then after that, I mean, we don't really know who his main target is, but Nelson Cruz is out there, Seiya Suzuki's out there, Chris Bryant is out there, Nick Castellanos is out there, Michael Conforto's out there, Eddie Rosario. There's a lot of options. Obviously, the Padres outfield right now, left field is Jurickson Profar or Jorge Alfaro. Center field, you got Trent Grisham. Right field, you have Will Myers. Obviously, they'd like to improve that. Maybe not right in center field because I think that's Grisham and Myers are going to be the two outfielders in right and center field. But I think that left field, obviously, you're not going to want Jurickson Profar as the starting left fielder come opening day. That's not going to happen. Now, there's people that want Seiya Suzuki. There's people that do want the smaller deal because, shorter term, less money. So like Chris Bryant's probably going to want what, $180, $200 million. So that might not be appealing to the Padres. But with that said, I think AJ Preller is going to get a big guy. I'm pretty confident in that. I think he's definitely going to be up there with for Nelson Cruz on that 1-year deal. Rob Manfred on MLB Network, I just saw, just is stepping to the mic. He has a smile on his face. Yep, Rob Manfred is now talking. So I'll stay tuned, keep you guys tuned to updates and all that on anything that he says. I can't air what he's saying live. I think I'd get in trouble for that. So for anyone that thinks that I can just raise the volume up and put it on here, sadly, I don't think I can. I'll probably get in trouble, copyright and all that. But Twitter updates will come in on what he says. So I'll definitely update you on, when he says something, what if he had announced. I mean, I figure that he would announce deals to happen, that free agency can start like maybe 7:00 Eastern time or whatever, because it's 6:35 Eastern. So we'll definitely see what Rob says. Again, he just stepped to the podium. Looks like he's in New York, I would think. And so we'll just see what he says. Let's see. Moves likely happening tonight, but won't doubt big deal within 48 hours. Yeah, I agree. I think, and the quotes are coming in from Rob Manfred right now. I agree. 48 hours, yeah, I think that's definitely going to happen. I think a deal like that is definitely, big deals are going to happen within 2 days. And I'm just excited to see who AJ goes out to get. Is it Nick Castellanos? Is it Chris Bryant? Is it Nelson Cruz? Kind of just went over that. But, yeah, we're just seeing, the Rob Manfred quotes are coming in right now. Let's see here. Apologizing to fans because of the lockout. Let's see. Evan Drellich reports here. Quote from Rob. This is a quote from Rob Manfred. I am genuinely thrilled to be able to say that Major League Baseball is back and we're going to play 162 games. I do want to start by apologizing to our fans. ... Looking forward, I could not be more excited about the future of our game. All right. Major League Baseball says the lockout will be lifted at around 7 p.m. Eastern time. So in a little more than 20 minutes, we're going to have, it looks like that's when the free-for-all will start, when teams can start, really talking to each other and for trades, when agents can start talking to teams. So we'll see. Evan Drellich, 7 p.m. Eastern time, when Major League Baseball says on a technical level the lockout will be lifted. And by the way, with the whole owner vote and all that, I'm not surprised that it was 30-0 because the owners were obviously the ones that proposed it to the players. So that's not that big of a surprise. I know that there were some teams, players-wise, on the other side of things, like the Mets, the Yankees, who else? Cardinals, and then there was one more team that didn't approve of the deal, of this current deal that happened. But they wanted baseball, obviously. They didn't agree to the deal because they didn't want the luxury tax to be where it was. I think they wanted it to be higher because, like the Mets, for example, they wanted the luxury tax higher so that Steve Cohen could, not be penalized as much for a deal. Let's see here. Joel Sherman. With official ratification, there is now a call with all general managers coming within the hour to discuss an update on new rules and implementation. All right, so that call should probably take like a half hour or whatever. But I'm here for you guys. So if anyone wants to join the stream, just comment and I can send the link. DM on Twitter at Talking Friars. I can send you the link if you want to join. We can talk Padres baseball, what you're excited to see, what you're excited about when this lockout ends. Rob Manfred's still talking on MLB Network, still talking to the media. Evan Drellich has come out with another quote. Quote, I hope that the process is a first step forward. I spoke to Tony after their ratification vote. He's referring to Tony Clark. I told him that I thought we had a great opportunity for the game in front of us and told him that I hope to work with him on things that are new in the agreement. That's a bunch of nothing, really. What you'd expect Rob to say. But to be quite honest, yeah, Anthony, when we're talking about the whole which teams said yes or no, Mets, Yankees, Cardinals, Astros. So, yeah, that proves kind of my point, right, that those 4 teams, right, big markets, they probably didn't agree with the competitive balance tax, the pre-arbitration bonus pool money. They probably wanted it more. Maybe not so much the pre-arb money, but they definitely wanted the competitive balance tax threshold, I think, higher. So, yeah, Anthony, yeah, those were definitely, those are the teams that voted no. I'll get in while we're waiting for Major League Baseball to meet with the general managers and all that. I'll definitely get into kind of what I said on episode 121, my reaction episode, all the details of it. And we can definitely then get into more Padres talk. Again, if you want to join the show, DM at Talking Friars on Twitter, and I can send you the link to hop in the show, and we can talk some Padres baseball. And you can ask any questions you have in the chat if you want. But, yeah, this is a fun night, and I hope you guys are excited to see some moves that the Padres, end up making. Let's go Padres, Greg. Yep. Let's see. Bob Nightingale. Oh, wow, this is a big one. Bob Nightingale says, Rob Manfred told the reporters that the media will now be permitted back into the clubhouses, just like before COVID. We might get some juicy Eric Hosmer stories now. That's because if media's in there now, wow, that's very appealing because obviously the media, when you're talking on Zoom, you can't. It's not like Kevin Acey who joined the show, by the way, last week. If you want to go watch or listen to that episode, gave some information about what the Padres might do, about Seiya Suzuki and where Chris Paddock's at and his mentality and Musgrove, the possible Musgrove extension. But it's not like, during COVID, Kevin Acey isn't going to ask a player on Zoom where all the other reporters are. He's not going to ask them. He's not going to ask a player, hey, do you like Eric Hosmer? How's Eric Hosmer in the clubhouse? Or he might ask that, but the player isn't going to give them an actual, full-on answer. But with one-on-one conversations in the clubhouse, I think you could see that happen. The players might not be so pumped about media being back in, but it is what it is. So Rob is still talking to the media. Anthony says, I can't wait to see what happens. I love the podcast you're doing. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate it. Yeah, I love what I'm doing right now. It's been fun giving my thoughts, having on guests. I've had on, former Padres, Clayton Richard, Admiral Rosales. Who am I forgetting? Tyson Ross. Had Kevin Kopps on, Padres prospect, who might end up being on the big league team this year. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it. I have plans that are supposed to be in place to have some really big time guests on sometime during the season or maybe in spring training. We'll see about that. So stay tuned for that. But Christopher Mad Dog Russo, that's a guest that pretty much no one really gets except maybe Radio Row. He's been on First Take with Stephen A. Smith. He's been viral a few times, had him on. Definitely took a while, but got him on. He kind of went in the viewpoint of not wanting to trade Eric Hosmer, and the Padres should be patient. I came in with the viewpoint of Greg, dump Eric Hosmer, and I convinced him through numbers, and he wasn't too big on the whole war thing, which was interesting. I mean, I guess it wasn't very surprising to me because when you think about it, he's an older guy, kind of doesn't – he kind of likes home runs, winning. He's big on that. But regardless of what stats you really use for Eric Hosmer, he's just been trash for the Padres. So he didn't really have a great argument there. I think I tore that argument up pretty good, with the playoffs and him grounding out in Game 2 of the NLDS. So he just hasn't really lived up to his contract at all. $80 million base salary. He's earned less than $5 million of that in his first 4 years with the Padres. So, yeah. Just looking up quotes here. From Rob Manfred's press conference. I'm sure the media is pressing him on why'd you cancel games, lie to us, and then the very next day say, oh, baseball's back, like nothing happened, But let's see here. Rob says, quote, the way the CBA is designed, it's driven by time and economic leverage. No agreement comes together before those two things find common ground. Manfred, quote, I think we made an agreement when it was possible to make an agreement. That might be true for his side, but it took way too long. There's no doubt that it took way too long. You can say all you want that you made an agreement when it was possible to make an agreement, but did you really make an agreement when it was possible? You went 43 days without communicating to the players. So you can't say you put together, your full best effort when we kind of know that wasn't really the case. Right? Because if you did, you would have communicated with the players and not made the whole excuse of, the phones are two-way, So, yeah. Quote, I've never been surprised at the solidarity of the Players Association. It may be one of the best unions in America. It has been historically, that's for sure. Yeah, credit to the players on this. They definitely stuck together. Were they all really together behind the scenes? No. The answer is no. There's no way. I think we saw that with the deal today. I think we saw that there was no way that every player wanted that deal. The 8 people on the executive committee for the players rejected it. It was 8-0 in favor of against this deal that they ended up accepting. But the other representatives from other teams and all the players on those teams wanted it. And so that's how we got to where we got. And that's why the players won the vote 26-4. So, it was players against players, but 26-4 was the total of it. So let's see here. Oh, all right. So Rob Manfred, press conference just ended. March 13th, players report to spring training. Spring training games begin the 18th through the 20th. Opening day, April 7th, and they get Jackie Robinson Day in on April 15th as scheduled. So just the way it's supposed to be. So that's good. That was definitely going to be a bad look if Jackie Robinson Day was not happening. But yeah, players report to spring training on the 13th, so Sunday. So if players are going to report on the 13th, look, that means that we're going to have a flurry of moves. like fast-paced moves that no one even thought of. Like that's where we're going to be right now. Because there's 3 days. You have 3 days to report. Rob Manfred on if he was outflanked by players. Quote, my answer to that is we got an agreement that we're happy with. Looking back at it, we used deadlines effectively to move the process when it needed to move. There's only one winner, and it's in getting an agreement, and we got one. See, I disagree with that. Saying that we use deadlines effectively to move the process isn't really true. Like, you wait, like I just mentioned, it took you 43 days to communicate with the players. You did not use the deadlines as effective as you could have, like you're trying to tell us. There's another lie. Like, you could have used a deadline. Let's be honest. If you wanted to use deadlines, you could have started on January 15th or whatever, not in March like we're at right now. And then use deadlines, and then they're fake deadlines because, a week ago you say that we're canceling the first week of games. They're not going to be made up. And then 2 weeks later, you come to an agreement and say, oh, no. We can make those games up. We'll make those games up with double headers. We'll start April 7th. Padres are at the Diamondbacks, by the way. We'll start April 7th, and we'll just, extend the season by a few days. Like, they did not have a great plan. The PR was bad. The players' PR was better than the owners, obviously, I think. Steve Cohen liking that tweet yesterday certainly didn't help the owner's cause. So if you missed it again, Rob Manfred said that reporters are going to be back in the clubhouse. So that's good. Rob Manfred says he hopes players see this as an agreement, as an olive branch. I don't know what that really means. An olive branch to what? Like the agreement's in place for the next 5 years. Rob Manfred, another quote. The Major League Baseball Players Association historically wanted a market-based system. Markets produce market results, and I think that the changes that were made in this agreement moved dramatically in their direction, like the competitive balance tax threshold, and I think you'll probably see a little different market results. Yeah, I don't know about dramatically. I mean, the competitive balance tax is now what, 230? So it was only moved 20 million. So like that's not even good enough to sign Nick Castellanos for 1 year, because Castellanos is going to be more than 20 million. So while it can allow teams to, sign other players, a combination of other players with that 20 million, I believe Dennis Lin said that the Padres are at like $15 million below the competitive balance tax. So we'll see if they can dump Hosmer or trade, if they decide to get rid of a Myers contract or something. I don't think they should. I think they should stick with him. They just don't have outfielders. They just don't have enough bodies right now, period. So we'll see where that goes. Still just looking at Twitter here. Again, if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Greg wants to sign Seiya Suzuki. I'll get to that in a second. I'm going to look at Twitter real quick, just seeing if I've seen anything else. Not seeing anything right now. All right, we'll get back to Greg's comment here. Yeah, sign Seiya Suzuki. Yeah. Look, if you listen to John and Jim on Extra 1360, he's a big fan of it. I've said on this podcast or on the podcast that I'd be open to Seiya Suzuki. I'm not if they sign him, I'm not going to be like, oh crap. I mean, that's not great. But at the same time, I'd rather have Bryant or Castellanos before Seiya. I think that Suzuki is obviously a good target. Kevin Acee said to me last week that the Padres would view it as an excellent outcome if they signed Seiya Suzuki. So the Padres are obviously in on him. They're confident in that. And the real answer to that, we just don't know. We don't really know if Seiya Suzuki is the real deal. Like, he hit really great in Japan, but doing that in Japan is different from doing that in America in the majors. We saw Shohei Ohtani struggle out of the gate, you know? I know he won MVP last year, and it's been great. It's working out great for the Angels. I know that they didn't make the playoffs, and they probably won't still. They need pitching. I don't think Noah Syndergaard's really the best option to rely on, coming off Tommy John and all that. But, hey, I guess they're going to do what they want to do. And it was a bad look for Arte Moreno, by the way, saying, I don't even like the $220 million luxury tax, and put it up $10 million from $210. So that was a cheap move out of him when he's spending $400+ million on Trout and $145 or $245 on Rendon. Like, that didn't make quite sense. But getting back to Suzuki, yeah, I think that would probably be my third outfielder I'd want behind Bryant and Castellanos, respectively. I like Bryant's versatility. I think Castellanos, he's in his prime, obviously. He's not as great as a defender, I don't think, as Bryant is. He could be more, but he could fill in at DH. Alfredo, yeah, too much money. Are you referring to too much money for Suzuki or too much money for Bryant and Castellanos? Because I don't think that it's too much money for Suzuki. Suzuki would be like $12, $15 million per year, in my opinion. MLB Network still just talking about the ratification. Lockout officially will be lifted in 3 minutes. Hold on, just checking Twitter. And then we'll get into what the CBA is about and all that for some of you guys that aren't all in, kind of like I was on like the particulars and all that. And hopefully at 7 o'clock, these rumors and Padres are in on Castellanos, Padres are in on Nelson Cruz. Hopefully all of that, starts going. Buster only. There's already a tweet here. Buster only. As the transactions begin, some rival executives curious about whether the Yankees attempt to move quickly on Freddie Freeman. So that's not really Padres related, unless you're kind of delusional thinking that the Padres are going to go get Freddie Freeman. I guess the Rays offered a deal for Freddie, so I guess anything's possible, right? But the Yankees, the Dodgers, Braves, that's probably the main competition, those three, I would say, for Freddie Freeman. Obviously, just don't want to see him go to the Dodgers, in my opinion. If he goes somewhere, if he stays with the Braves, cool. Goes to the Yankees, cool. Whatever. Just I don't want to see him come to the Dodgers. Charlie, his son, would see Fernando more, but he can see him a couple times a year in Atlanta. Okay, Alfredo, you were talking about Nick and Chris being too much money. Yeah, you're kind of right. I think it would be a little too much money maybe for Bryant if you believe he's kind of on the back end of his career. For Castellanos, yeah, it might be an overpay based on his great year last year. But at the same time, like, the Padres are in contention right now, World Series contention on paper. And if you want to win, you got to end up spending money. You've already wasted $75.5 million on Eric Hosmer. Like, what's another big contract to a star, an all-star? You know, I'd rather have them spend money on an all-star and have it not work out than not spend money at all. If you get what that means, if you get what I'm saying there. But I do understand where Alfredo's coming from here. Seiya Suzuki, if you're in on him for Alfredo, then I would assume I'd be in on that. Like I mentioned, I'd be in on that. All right, it's 7 p.m. Eastern time, so the lockout should be looks like it's over now, and transactions should be starting. Anthony says, I want Bryant because he can play multiple positions. Yeah, I'm big on his versatility. Hold on one second, guys. Brian's versatility is big, yeah. I agree with what you're saying there, Anthony. It's big because of the Padres and their injury history, right? Like, he can play the outfield, can play the infield. You know? Tatis obviously is a big question mark health-wise, and so it's never a smart thing, in my opinion, to bank on Tatis staying healthy the whole year. And if Tatis does get hurt, then guess what? Then are you gonna put Jake at short, and then you put who at second? You put Kim there, or do you want Chris Bryant maybe playing third? You do more of the shift, because remember, the shift is still here in 2022. It's not implemented until 2023. So there's definitely different options. Anthony points out, if Manny wants an off day for DH, Brian can play third. Yep, that was Brian's position in the World Series, made the final out there on that ground ball. So, yeah, that's an option. Left field is obviously an option. That's probably where he'd play most of his time. He's played center. I think he said on the red carpet one time at the All-Star game, one of his All-Star game appearances, that he actually likes playing center field the most. So that's an option too. If you want to move Grisham, who knows? All right, it looks like we have a Dodger fan in here. Do you think I should kick him out, guys? Brian Perez, let's go, Freddie, a Dodger. Yeah, no. No. Hopefully not. Conversations probably are starting right now. I mean, Freddie Freeman's top first baseman remaining on the roster, or excuse me, in free agency. So the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Braves, those, like I mentioned, those are probably the three teams. Those guys are going to be interested. And the players' names have appeared back on the Padres website. MLB Network, you can show players' faces again, highlights. You couldn't do that before because of the players in the league they didn't come to an agreement yet. Anthony Ritter, do you think Abrams will get called up? Get called up when? End of the season, I'd say that's more announced. That's definitely more likely. That's definitely more likely for Abrams to be called up at the end of the year because of the injury that he had with his ACL, MCL last year. That set him back. I've seen pictures that he's in Arizona already. He looks good. He's envisioned playing with Fernando. I saw a quote about that today, I think earlier today. So he looks good. I think that they're going to want him to get like a good amount of at-bats this year. Kevin Charity, he's a big prospect guy. Matt Flowers, he came on the show last month, I believe, talked with me about CJ, Hassel, Gore. And he was talking about how Hassel, 5-star or 5-tool player, can be a 5-tool player. Abrams, kind of like that, little less power, but could be a 5-tool player. And I think Abrams, depending on the free agent situation, because that's big here. If the Padres go out and sign Kris Bryant or Seiya Suzuki or Nick Castellanos, I think maybe they can afford having Abrams down definitely until like September, assuming no injuries happen. But if they don't and they strike out and sign a smaller guy or a Jock Peterson, someone like that who platoons, it's a 1-year deal, something like that, well then Abrams, you might see Abrams come up earlier because he might just be a better player than them in terms of overall hitting both sides, speed, defense, stuff like that. So it might depend on who they sign in free agency. But I'd love to see, obviously, Abrams get called up, yeah. Escondido, Southern Utah. All right, Clayton, what's up, man? Let's go Pods, yep. Castellanos. See, we got Castellanos in here. Looks like someone else wanted Suzuki. Thought Bryant and Castellanos was too much money. I mean, who are we kidding here, right? Like, if they got Bryant, if they got Castellanos, or if they got Suzuki, I'd be happy with any of those three. So, obviously, like, I'd be jumping for joy if we got any of those three. I'd be jumping for the most joy if we got Kris Bryant. San Diego connection. He likes Rose Donuts. The versatility. I'm huge on versatility. I enjoy Chris's versatility. Preller likes versatility. Obviously, we saw that with Kim, Profar, Tatis, obviously playing the outfield last year. That's not as – hopefully that doesn't have to happen again. Abrams, up the middle. He loves up the middle guys. Bryant, he's known for third base. Probably would play left field here, but he can play up the middle too. He can play first base. He's played first before. So if that's where you want him, if they get really creative, or if they want Jorge Alfaro in left field, or if they do want Profar there at some time, like Preller can get really creative with Kris Bryant. Castellanos, he could still get creative, but like he's not a first baseman. He can play right, can play left. Definitely not center field. He could DH, but that's about it. So the positional versatility is definitely less. So, again, I'm big on versatility. Let's get to the CBA. MLB Network's talking about that. CBA is $230 million this year, $20 million increase. Minimum salary at $700,000. Pre-arbitration bonus pool money at $50 million. 12-team postseason. 6-pick draft lottery. Amateur draft, 20 rounds. Maximum of 5 minor league options per season per player. So Nabil Chrismat's probably pretty happy about that. Universal DH. So Nelson Cruz, be interested. There definitely be interest there for AJ in the front office. But the pre-arbitration bonus pool money, I was talking about this on the podcast. I was pretty surprised, to be honest, that the players took that because they wanted pre-arbitration bonus pool money of $65 million instead of $50, and that $15 million, that's a big gap. Considering, I mean, it's a small gap considering they were like $100 million apart at one point earlier this offseason during the lockout on that. But like $15 million, that's still a big gap. Where the luxury tax was $2 million, players wanted $232 million, league wanted $230 million. So there was a smaller gap there. But I was surprised that they took the pre-arb money. I made a prediction on the Talking Friars Twitter account that they would reject that offer and they would propose a little bit higher of a pre-arbitration bonus pool money value. But I think it goes back to the players kind of just being fed up and tired of Max Scherzer and Andrew Miller and guys like that just saying we're not going to take this deal. Like, there's a lot of players in this league that aren't making $43 million a year like Max Scherzer is, and they wanted to play baseball. They were tired of sitting around and potentially losing a full season, worth of salary when it's their first or second year in the big leagues and they don't know how long their major league career is going to be. So I think a lot of players just got tired of that. They just got tired of some higher players maybe valuing things higher value that the younger players didn't value that, that high. Let's see here. I'd expect, it's 7-11, so we don't really know how long that GM meeting, because the league said that the general managers were meeting with Major League Baseball to talk about rules and implementation and all that. So we don't know. I don't know how long that meeting is. How long that meeting went. I like Anthony's comment here. No Dodger fans in here, Padre fans only. Yeah. Hey, if you're a Dodger fan and you're in here, I guess props to you for wanting to come into a Padre live stream, but good luck this year. I'll tell you that. I think the Padres are definitely coming for the Dodgers. So it's now 12 minutes past the 7 o'clock end of the lockout, especially end of the lockout, technically the end of the lockout. And now we'll see when moves start going. AJ Cassavell just tweeted that, so with that playoff format that we were talking about, 12-team playoff, it's going to be 3-game wild card series and 6 teams in each league, obviously National League and American League. So the first 2 teams, the first 2 seeds, the top 2 division winners will be on a bye, I believe, in the wild card series. Because if there's 3 series, 3 teams come out of it. So how is that going to work? So I think it's the first 2 seeds get a bye, and then those 2 teams would play the winners of the 2 wild card series, which would be the 3 wild card teams, which the Padres should make, and the 3rd division winner. So the top 2 division winners get byes. The 3rd division winner has to play in the wild card series to advance. So that makes the regular season important, really wanting to get those top 2 seeds in. Or if you're a team, you want one of those top 2 seeds. Anthony says, yeah, we just need to stay healthy. I agree, yeah. Clevenger's coming back. Musgrove obviously stayed healthy last year, was the only guy to stay healthy last year in the rotation. That's going to need to happen again. Hopefully it happens again. Darvish is a question mark health-wise, I think more than Snell, to be quite honest. Snell's injury was a groin. It had nothing to really do with his pitching motion. I think it was just a weird injury. And Snell, I mean, he was pitching like the best pitcher in the league those last, month and a half? Where I know the beginning of the season, first half of the season, first 3 quarters of the season wasn't great, but because the Padres didn't make the playoffs, I mean, you kind of have to just take the positives for what they are and just go with the positives. Man, it's so good to see on MLB Network, see those highlights playing. Because they couldn't play. They were just playing like old games the whole offseason. Anthony, again, I feel like we have the best rotation in the league. Yeah, I agree. Rob Freeman, the pitching ninja, had him on. I had him on earlier this offseason. And he said, if guys stay healthy, like, you can't tell me that that's not like the best like starting 5 in baseball. You know, like it is. The Mets may have DeGrom and Scherzer top 2. That's easily the best 2 top, the best duo of starters in baseball. But in terms of 1 through 5, who do they have after that? Taijuan Walker? Question mark. Carlos Carrasco? Question mark. Taylor McGill, I think? Question mark. So the Padres, they have Snell and Darvish. When they're on, I'll put them up against DeGrom and Scherzer. I mean, we saw what the Padres did to Scherzer last year when they were down 8-9-0, and then they came back. The 5th starter, I think the 5th starter, Chris Paddock, has the upper hand. That's what Kevin Acee said when I had him on last week. Said Paddock is the upper hand. Looks like he's coming up good off of that UCL injury. Looking strong. Ryan Weathers is in consideration. Nick Martinez is probably in consideration. They had that agreement before the lockout, $20 million, 4 years, which I thought was a little long for a guy who hadn't pitched in the big leagues for a while, but that's what Preller gave him. AJ's like, all right, I'm going to need one line, a whole lot of Red Bull. He's not going to sleep too much, that's for sure. Because with this lockout ending, it's now a lot of communication's going to happen, a lot of moves really quickly. Spring training starting Sunday, the report date, you'd think that players would want to know where they're going and know where they're going to rent places for the season and during spring training in Florida or Arizona. And I think they're just tired of sitting around not knowing where they're going to be. Let's see. Another question. Who out there is available free agent that would fit in the 1 or 2 spot? I think Grisham should be batting 9th. Yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking about it today, I think, when I was working out about Trent Grisham. I like him in the leadoff spot. But then I remember writing an article last year about how great Fernando's numbers were in the leadoff spot last year. And how great, especially with that big Dodger series, right? When Jace Tingler, that's when he made the move, putting Fernando in that leadoff spot. And it was like, yeah, you should not move this guy. He needs to stay in the leadoff spot. So Grisham being 9th, I wouldn't be too opposed to that. Right now, I mean, if we're just eyeballing what a potential lineup could be, here, I'll write it out here just so I don't skip anyone here. Just off of, I'm not even looking at a roster or anything, but that's a good question, Erie. Let's see. We could go Tatis, leadoff, and I'm going as current roster is constructed. So you think that, they get a Castellanos, a Suzuki, or a Bryant, they'll be in the middle. But as the roster is constructed, I think you could go Tatis, leadoff, Cronenworth second. Machado hitting third. Trying to decide between Myers. I believe in Myers. I'll put him fourth right now. I think Myers. I mean, when you look at it now, like the lineup's really thin. Like, I think then probably Hosmer, just for the maybe he'll hit one out. Maybe he works staying on his back foot more, back leg, hitting wise, like he was talking about on a podcast earlier this week. Go Hosmer there. Nola probably, right? Nola or Caratini. Profar. Grisham. The DH. For DH, what? Alfaro right now? So I would slot in. So right now, just kind of eyeballing it here. Tatis, Cronenworth, Machado, Myers, Alfaro at DH, Hosmer, Nola, Profar, Grisham. Yeah, that's 9 guys. So that's not the greatest lineup. I mean, after the first 3, you're like, oh, man, this line was pretty thin. Like, you realize how much work the Padres have to do with the DH. Hopefully you can put Nelson Cruz behind Manny there, or Brian or Castellanos. If Suzuki comes, maybe think about putting him 2, Jake 3, Manny 4, something like that. Yeah, but the lineup after those top 3, I mean, it's not that strong, to be quite honest. North Carolina, what's up, Jerry? Hope you're doing well. Go Padres. Anthony, I see Tatis, a 2 or 3 hitter. Yeah, I see that, but I just point to the splits last year. Again, I like Grisham at leadoff. That was my initial gut this morning. But then when you think of the numbers, I feel like Tatis is just more confident in that leadoff spot, to be quite honest. He should. There's no doubt he should be hitting in the first inning, Anthony, though. Like, I agree with that. Like, you're not going to put him fourth like Tingler was putting it at one point last year, which was absolutely stupid. And that's just one of the 1,000 reasons he got fired. Let's see. When Fernando came back from injury last year against Arizona, he hit 2 solo homers first game back, and they still lost. My only opinion on Fernando batting leadoff. Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think that Fernando hit those 5 home runs in 3 games. Wasn't he hitting leadoff? I mean, I can go look. So if someone wants to, you can go look at that again for me. All I remember is that was an amazing weekend just watching on TV. It was a road game. You know, you had Sunday night baseball on Sunday. So I think that, yeah, Tatis, he definitely needs to be in that first inning. There's no doubt about that. Bob Costas on MLB Network right now. So it's 7:24 Eastern time. So it's been 24 minutes since the lockout technically ended. So we'll see when these rumors start coming out. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep being live here because I do think something's going to happen tonight. There's no doubt about that. I have all the time in the world. So let's see here. We have another one about Machado. A time is now. Machado's in his prime. I say break the bank. Keep the Dodgers and Giants down. They lost a lot of players. Now is the time to strike. I mentioned that with Christopher Mad Dog Russo. What was that, last week, 2 weeks ago? And I think that's a good point, that now definitely is the time to strike, right? 2022 was like that window, right, to contend. Is like that big start. I mean, I was joking with friends in high school a couple years ago. 2022 World Series champs, like that. This is kind of when that window started. Really does start it. Machado's in his prime. Tatis, not in his prime yet, if that's what you want to call it. But like he was an MVP finalist last year. So I mean, you could say he's still in his prime. But yeah, this is definitely the time to strike, no doubt about it. The Dodgers lost Scherzer already, lost Corey Seager. Massive overpay by the Rangers, by the way, but they still lost them. No, I mean, it's not a guarantee they get Kershaw back. You'd think that they would. But again, the Padres, it's like they got free agent additions with Clevenger. And then you bring back Weathers and Morahone. Morahone missed like the whole season last year. Paddock's back healthy. I really like where the rotation's at on paper. Again, on paper means nothing like we saw last year. But Machado, you're right. He's not getting any younger. He does have an opt-out. I forget when it is, but yeah, he does have an opt-out. So yeah, I don't know what's happening here with all the moves that seem like were going to happen. 6 o'clock was supposed to be, that's when the owners ratified it, right? 30-0. Then 7 o'clock, the GMs met. Or no, 6:30 the GMs met. So we'll see 7 o'clock if it's almost a half hour past 7 now. Our conversation's happening. It's just not leaked out yet. You kind of think like of how much time they had with the lockout. You think that they have their plan already all mapped out right now. So maybe it's just AJ Preller reaching out individually to these guys, and no one he's not going to leak it to reporters. Like that's not going to happen. All right, still got more questions in here. Let's see. If they overspend, they can see a minor reset 2024, but I would try to keep those damn Dodgers down. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know about a reset. I don't know what Preller's version and Seidler's version of a reset is. If they're in the middle of a contending window, a period of time when they're supposed to be contending. I think that with the farm system, with Gore hopefully turning it around, because you got to remember, in 2024, that's when Hassel's going to be in the big leagues, hopefully. Abrams, they'll have years in the big leagues already, and that's when you'll want to capitalize because they won't be making as much money. They might get the pre-arb bonus pool money, but that's after the season. So in 2024, I don't think that would be the time to reset, even if things aren't working out. Like Darvish and Snell, if things didn't work out, they'd probably not be here in 2024, but you'd think they'd have Musgrove. You'd think that they'd get an extension done there. You'd still have Machado. You'd still have Tatis. You'd still have Cronenworth. You'd still have a Grisham, hopefully. You'd still have a solid, like I mentioned, Abrams, Hassel. James Wood hopefully would be up. You'd have a really talented group of guys still. Hopefully Gore. So I don't know. I don't know if 2024, I don't think that would be a reset. Maybe a step back and you'd be a wild card team and not be true contenders for a division. But now is not the time to even think about that reset, Bob Nightingale, 16 teams will have opening day on April 7th. That's one of them's the Padres. Remainder will have opening day on Friday, April 8th. First game on the schedule, Red Sox at Yankees in the Bronx, April 7th. Perfect. Let's see here. I don't see Machado opting out. I feel like he's investing in the city. I do too. Hosmer said on the podcast this week that he had with Brian O'Grady that, you know, Machado's been a great leader. All the stuff that we've heard. He's organizing parties and organizing team dinners and all that. He and his wife Yaney. So he is invested. You're right about that. And I think as long as things are heading in the right direction, the way that they're supposed to be going, I don't see why Machado would opt out, because, the fan base loves him here. Calm before the storm. Yeah, you're right. Yep. I mean, hopefully there's a storm for the Padres. You'd hope so. We'll see when that storm happens. Kind of in a waiting game here. I went live 6:30 because that's when Manfred was speaking. That's when things are really going to get started. It's now 7:30, been on over an hour now, and not a whole lot has happened. MLB Network's going. I have that on in the corner over here for me. Just checking in there. And I think maybe general managers are still meeting with baseball. You think that – I'm following Twitter all over here. So whenever I'm pausing, I'm looking at Twitter to see if there's any updates and all that. So we'll see when this storm happens. We'll get tweets. Notable remaining free agents, MLB Network saying Carlos Correa, Freddie Freeman, Castellanos, Bryant, Trevor Story's another one, Schwarber, Rizzo, Conforto, Seiya Suzuki. Pitchers are Kershaw, Carlos Rodon, Danny Duffy, Zach Greinke, Kenley Jansen, Michael Pineda, Adam Ottavino, Yusei Kikuchi, Andrew Chafin. So the Padres, in terms of pitching, I don't see them really going out and getting a whole lot of guys. I like where the bullpen's at. Robert Stock, former Padre, had him on my mind for some reason. Robert Suarez. I'm blanking on the Luis Garcia, the Cardinals. I think he definitely has a chance to close, I think. And then the starting rotation, like I mentioned, on paper, it's the best in the league, in my opinion. Darvish, Snell, Musgrove, Clevenger, Paddock, Weathers, Morhone, Gore, maybe at some point. Lamet, who knows about him? I think that the pitching's in a strong place on paper, and you just bet that injuries aren't going to happen in a second year in a row, and Ruben Niebla is going to have a positive impact on these pitchers. Ruben Niebla can talk to Mackenzie Gore now. He can talk to Weathers and Paddock, so hopefully he has a positive influence on them. Lawrence, what's up? Can't believe the lockout is donezo. I can't read Manny's mind, obviously, but Manny has always thought of his family first. Wouldn't be surprised if he opted out or stayed. Wait, how can you not be surprised if he opts out and if he stays? Those are two totally opposite things. Like, do you think that he's going to opt out, or do you think he's going to stay? I think he's going to stay because I think the Padres are going to be on the right track. We need a shutdown closer more than we need Hosmer out of town. I'd love to know who Preller has in mind. Again, if I were Preller, that would not be my first priority. I know that sounds weird, but you had the chance at Melancon. $14 million, 2 years to the Diamondbacks, who they'll be playing on opening day now in Arizona. I would have gave him that. I think he still has it. He obviously loved it being here. He was good here. I mean, I like Luis Garcia. I like Robert Suarez from what I've seen of him, but I'm not going to act like I'm some expert who watched every single appearance Robert Suarez had overseas. Like I didn't. I'd never really heard of the guy before, but watching film, a little bit of him, he looks good. I know, great analysis, but that's pretty much what we have, really. It's going to be really watching him closely in spring training. That's what we're going to have to do. But the fact needing a shutdown closer more than we need to get Hosmer out of town, do we need a shutdown closer? Yeah. But I think that that shutdown closer could be on the roster. Like, did we know that there was a shutdown closer on the roster last year? Not at the start of the year. Like, there was no firm closer. Melancon said he wanted it, but Tingler said it was going to be a battle going into the year. You had Melancon and Emilio Pagan and Drew Pomerantz and I think one other guy. So it was a competition, and Melancon took it and ran with it. I think that could be the same thing here, where one guy takes it and runs with it, and there's the shutdown closer. Getting rid of Hosmer will help the Padres create more room and more flexibility to make moves. One corner outfielder, DH 2, closer 3, Padres top 3 priorities. I agree with that. I agree with the top 2 there. Corner outfielder 1, because he plays every day, and especially with Chris Bryant. Like, with Chris Bryant, I mean, the versatility, former MVP, World Series champion. I think corner outfielder is definitely number 1 because he plays every day. He's just going to have a bigger impact. DH 2, because they need pop. Sorry, Hosmer's not going to be the DH. Not going to happen. And then closer, I'd put behind like bench depth, outfield depth. They don't have any bench outfielders right now, except like Jorge Alfaro, if that's who you want to count. Profar's the left fielder right now. That's how, like, nothing that they have. So I feel bad for Kim. We can't get rid of him that much at bats, and he's good at defense. I would trade him for an outfielder. I wouldn't do it yet. I mean, Kim's great defensively. You don't know if Tatis is going to stay healthy. Obviously, fingers crossed, but you don't know if he's going to stay healthy. I wouldn't give up on him yet. He looks yoked from pictures that I've seen. And who knows what their plan is with Hosmer. If they don't get a first baseman or get a guy that can play more first base, and they want to keep or if they want to put Jake at first and not play Hosmer, well then, they're going to maybe put Kim at second. So I would not get rid of Kim yet. And CJ, I mentioned earlier, if you weren't here, I think he's more of an end-of-season guy in terms of coming up. I don't think he thinks about best interest of the Padres before he thinks about what he needs to do to be on a team that has the best shot. Melancon? What do you mean? He was all Padres last year. He was an all-star last year. Melancon became very hittable. Never lights out? I mean, I'll dispute that. And I can look up Mark Melancon's stats right now, his splits. I mean, he had a WAR over 2, a 2.23 ERA. He was an all-star. Let me look up his splits. So, okay, you say he was never lights out? First half of the season, opponents hit only 211 off of him. Second half, 253. He had an ERA under 2.6 in the first and second half of the season last year. In April, he was lights out. Opponent's batting average was under 100. In May, it was 238. September was his worst month, and he pitched in the least amount of games that month, 9 games. And opponent's batting average 324. They were already out of it most of the month. I'd say he was lights out at some points last year, definitely, especially April, May. Why do you think he was an all-star? Why do you think he was pitching in the 8th inning of that all-star game? I think he was. Let's see. We can expect 110% from Will. It's 1L, by the way. 1L for Will Myers. This year, his last good contract is on the line. Hopefully his knee stays good and he stays away from that slider. Yeah, he usually gets fooled by that slider pretty good. Over the years, I go to Sunday games all the time, and it felt like a couple years ago. I mean, he was striking out 3-4 times a game. So, yeah. Let's see. I was stressed out every time Mark would close a game if it was a 1-run lead. Every time I wasn't stressed out at the beginning of the year. I'd say I was more stressed out not because of Mark. I mean, I know that Cincinnati Reds game comes to mind where he gave up, 4 runs, but then Caratini and Hosmer helped him go walk it off in the bottom of the inning. So maybe that was forgotten a little bit, but maybe then. But, the only time I was really, stressed out about Mark was when the team was being worse. And as the team was worse and worse, whenever Mark came in the game, it was like, we have to get this win because we're probably not going to win tomorrow or maybe the next day. You had to get those wins and secure those wins where you had them, where you got them. So I wasn't stressed out every time. It was more when the team was being bad. That's what happened, yeah. That's when I was stressed more. Tony Clark coming out with the quote here. From Tony Clark, according to Bob Nightingale, quote, "Our union endured the second longest work stoppage in its history to achieve significant progress in key areas that will improve not just current players' rights and benefits, but those of generations to come." Look, I think the players won here, right? They're going to get their full salary, full season, right? Full season salary. The younger players get that higher pre-arbitration bonus pool money, or they get bonus pool money. There was none before then, but they get it up to $50 million. They won the deal, I think, but I think they still could have gotten more. I think that just players were just they were just tired of all this negotiating. Pre-arb bonus pool will be divided among 100 players, roughly the top 20% of pre-arb bonus pool eligible players, according to an MLB writer from The Score. Okay, so it's not top 30 WAR players for pre-arbitration. It's top 100. All right, so that's not as good for the top 30 players because it's less money for them, I would assume. But it's good for maybe obviously like a Jake Cronenworth, right? Who else would fit that bill? Nola, I think he's arbitration eligible now. But top 100 players, that's interesting. All right. I'm going to put here in the comments a link In this link, you can join the show and talk to me live if you want to. I know you're doing it in the comments here. If you do want to come on live, go ahead and hit this link that I just put out. Copy and put that link. This link that's right here that I put in the comments. Hopefully you guys can see that in the comment section. You can hit that and you can come on and talk to me live if you want to, or ask questions in the comments, wherever. Let's see. They can make up these games in doubleheaders in San Diego, no problem. The problem is the teams that get bad weather, they'll be overwhelmed. Overwhelmed, yeah, maybe in April and stuff like that. But I think at the same time, they're just happy to play, and I think they're okay with doubleheaders because rosters will expand a little bit for those doubleheader days. According to Darnay Tripp, reporter for NBC, said the Padres player representative Craig Stammen said the team overwhelmingly wanted to vote yes on the version of the CBA that went through. We accomplished some things that have never been accomplished in the CBA before, Stammen said. Yeah, he's right. Pre-arbitration bonus pool money. They'll have till July 25th. They'll have till July 25th to get that international draft decided. Philly got dumped on last year. They missed so many games. I don't really remember how many games they missed. I think that, they just weren't good enough. The pitching wasn't consistent enough all year. Aaron Nola wasn't totally spot on as he usually is. Zach Wheeler was great, but other than that, they had Vince Velasquez in that rotation earlier in the year. Then he ends up getting released. Padres get him. Man, I don't know where this free agents news and this activity is. Teams they've been able to start making moves for 49, 50 minutes now. Darnay Tripp said Stammen was in close touch with Jake Cronenworth throughout the negotiations. Said they became pretty good friends. I'm doing this for you. You know that, because most of this stuff isn't going to directly affect me. That's what Stammen said to Cronenworth. Said he's excited that younger players will be rewarded. Yeah, because Jake was an all-star last year, and he didn't get any big bonus money off of that. He went to the all-star game. That's great, but he didn't get the bonus money. What do you think about trading Hassan Kim? I feel bad he's not getting enough at-bats, and he's a valuable piece because of his defense, and we need outfield depth. I don't think they'll trade Kim. I think I talked about this a little bit earlier, that they don't really know what their situation's going to be like in the infield. Are they going to have Hosmer at first? Because if they will, okay, maybe then. But Tatis isn't a guarantee to stay healthy. And if Tatis is hurt, then they're going to put Jake at short. And then they're going to need Kim to play second. I know you can have Profar, but, right now he's your left fielder. You got to have some type of bench. And after 1 year, I don't think it would be the best idea to just give up on him when you sign him to a 4-year, $28 million deal. You don't sign him to a 4-year deal and just say, all right, I'll give up on him after 1 year just because he had a bad offensive year. He had an amazing defensive year. So he can provide value in other ways than just on offense. We need baseball. We're getting it. April 7th, opening day. Players report to spring training in a few days. They can voluntarily report tomorrow, I believe, starting. We're going to get it. We'll get it. Don't worry, we'll get it. Moving back to free agents, Castellanos played 138 games last year. Nelson Cruz, 140. Those are two big targets for the Padres. Castellanos as an outfielder, Cruz as a DH. And DH, Cruz with 140 games, that's good. With that DH spot, if they get Cruz, obviously I'm elated. That's big. Getting Nelson Cruz is huge. Obviously, adds a lot of power and thump to that lineup. But at the same time, it's also good to be able to have flexibility in that spot. Maybe Cruz can play first or the outfield a little bit, or just be a pinch hitter some games. But using that with some flexibility for Machado or Tatis for off days, guys like that, I think that would be a good option as well. So if they do get Cruz and he's playing 140 games or hitting in 140 games, then those 22 games that he's not playing, the Padres are still going to be in a good spot DH-wise there, in my opinion. We need some signings. Yep, we do. It is now 7:55 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:55 Pacific. The lockout ended. It officially opened up all the free agency stuff and trades, unfreeze rosters 55 minutes ago. And I haven't heard anything in terms of moves. Buster only put out one tweet before the 7 o'clock deadline or opening time about the Yankees maybe going after Freddie Freeman, but that's not Padres related. If the Yankees got Freddie Freeman, that means the Dodgers didn't get him. So, of course, I'd be happy about that. Kim needs more ABs, yeah. I think it's just going to be hard to find them if everyone's healthy. I think they're still going to want to try Eric Hosmer at first base to start the year. And then Jake at second. Obviously, the left side of the infield with Machado and Tatis. No one's touching that. MLB and the players agreed to stage games or tours in the following places over the next 5 years: Mexico, Asia, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, London, and Paris. So, you know, they did the London series. It seems like that's what's going to happen with those places. That Padres spring training or regular season that they had, I think, against the Dodgers in Mexico. Or who was that against? Was it Dodgers? That seemed like that worked out pretty well in 2019, I think. I think Christian Villanueva hit a big home run in that series. But back to Erie's point, yeah. Kim needs more at-bats. I just don't know where he's going to find them. If it's pinch hit role, but again, he's not the strongest hitter. So maybe they'll get him a lot of at-bats in spring training, but it is going to be a little bit of a condensed spring training. So I don't know how much time they're going to give prospects, and they'll give Kim time because he's a major league player. But let's say they get Castellanos, Bryant, or Suzuki, or Cruz. I think those guys, they'd want to get them at-bats in the lineup so they can be more comfortable, stuff like that. So time will tell. Hopefully we'll see how many at-bats he gets. I don't want to say the less, the better, because that means that the team's healthy. But in terms of the positions that he plays, like, it almost like it is the less, the better, because he plays middle infield. And middle infield are your two all-stars, Cronenworth and Tatis, two of your all-stars. And then at third, which he played a little bit, you have Machado. So if he's not playing there, that means they're probably healthy, and that's a good thing. And then you say we probably have the best infield in the league. We probably have the best third, short, and second base combination, if you know what I mean. Hosmer obviously definitely doesn't help that. The Braves had a really good one when they had Freeman, Albies, Swanson, and Austin Riley. Austin Riley played really well in the postseason last year. Houston, they're going to lose Correa, it seems like, so that's not an option. Yankees, they don't even have a shortstop right now. The Dodgers, they lost Corey Seager. Giants are old. Mets, third base, iffy. Second base, iffy. Red Sox, what are they doing at first base? What are they doing at second base? Just trying to think of other teams. The Padres are up there. Good point. I just hope we have someone that can hit at least 300. Cronenworth, I think, could do that. Tatis could do that. We stopped stealing bases second half because we stopped getting on base. Well, yeah, in order to steal bases, you have to get on base. So, yeah, that's a correlation, definitely. I'm interested to see that bigger base thing in 2023. Like, is that really going to be that big of a difference? I think it's like going to increase like 3 inches or something. Like, so that's all of a sudden going to increase stolen bases. I don't buy that. I think it could be a difference maker in like guys being safe and holding on to bases maybe or something like that, but giving them more time to stay on the base during those like sliding plays. But excuse me. I don't know how much the bigger base thing will really do. Tingler would draw the lineup from his hat every day. I call it the Tingler Shuffle. I mean, it's what it seemed like at some points. Had Tatis hitting leadoff some days, fourth, third, second. Had Hosmer hitting fourth sometimes. Didn't they have? I swear there was one time where Profar was like hitting third. It was like second or third. I was like, wow, we've come a long way in the wrong direction if Tingler's doing that. See, not Padres, but Yankees equipment truck is already on the way to Tampa, Florida, their spring training site. Oh, here we go. Not Padres, but it is Mets. A report from SNY, Andy Martino. According to sources with direct knowledge of the Mets' thinking, a reunion with Michael Conforto is not on the radar. So if you're a Michael Conforto guy, you want Michael Conforto to be a Padre, I guess that's a good thing. Steve Cohen's not going to get into that Michael Conforto bidding, it looks like. Unvaccinated players can't play in Canada. They'll not be paid or receive service time for those games missed in Canada under the new collective bargaining agreement. Oh, new CBA Players Association. I can share my screen for that too, I guess. Let's see here. All right, so let's see here. This is the Players Association's key objectives that they had in the new basic agreement. March 10th, they put this out. Players Association today reached agreement with MLB on a new 5-year CBA. Withstanding 99-day lockout by owners, players negotiated a new CBA that enhances competition on and off the field, ensures first-class medical and pension benefits for players and their families, institutes unprecedented contractual enhancements that will apply throughout the association's membership, and provides fairer wages to players at all points of their careers. Yeah, you can make a case for that. Pre-arb bonus money is a big one. Our union endured the second longest work stoppage in its history to achieve significant progress in key areas that will improve not just current players' rights and benefits, but those of generations to come, Tony Clark said. Players remain engaged and unified from beginning to end, and in the process, re-energized our fraternity. Key components. So it's a 5-year deal going through the 2027 season. What it seems like here, significant increases in minimum salary, $50 million bonus pool going to the top 100 pre-arbitration bonus pool eligible players. Significant increases to the payroll thresholds. Amendments to the Rule 4 draft order. Draft pick incentives for clubs who promote top prospects and avoid service time manipulation. So I think if a team promotes a top prospect like Abrams and he's like Rookie of the Year, I think they get bonuses from that, or draft picks or stuff like that. Pension benefits, best-in-class medical benefits for players' families, improved benefits for former players, 12-team postseason, like we mentioned. Top 2 division winners get a bye in the wild card series, I think is how that would go. And then the 3 wild card teams and the worst division team will play in the wild card series, 3-game wild card series. The winners of those 2 series move on to face the 2 division winners in both leagues. A limit on number of times a player can be optionally assigned. Yep. To 5. increased spending pools in the Rule 4 draft, voluntary scouting combine. Scouting combine, that's cool. New policy governing commercial agreements with sports betting companies. Service credit for players who finished first or second in the Rookie of the Year voting. Players are excited to get back on the field, join their teammates, and compete in the game they love. So if you have any questions about this agreement, let me know, and we can answer those. Because there's a lot of stuff there. Peter Seidler just came out with a letter, so we can get to that too. Let's see here. I'm going to try to find that. If you have any questions about anything I read there in that letter, let me know. Again, if you want to join me and talk to me live on the show, you can hit that link that I just posted again in the comment section. You should be able to see that. Just copy and paste that link in, and you should be able to join the show. I'll let you in. Let's see here. Peter Seidler just put out a letter to the fans. Here it is. Dear Padres fans, this was just put out at 5:05 Pacific time, 2-3 minutes ago. Dear Padres fans, thank you for your patience and continued support of the Padres. All of us in the organization look forward to being together with you again at Petco Park. I both respect and appreciate the bond and trust that we have built among our fans, San Diego community, and the Padres organization. We are well positioned to finalize our roster, begin spring training, and prepare for an exciting season. Our goal remains the same, to win our first World Series for San Diego and you, all our loyal fans. I want to thank everyone at Major League Baseball and the Players Association, whose tireless efforts resulted in a CBA that will serve us well for the next 5 years. And this new agreement is good for our fans, players, and the game of baseball. Once we have more information regarding the rescheduling of our first 6 games, we'll communicate those details to you. So what that seems like, it doesn't look like the player or the teams know when those first 6 games, that first homestand for the Padres, that involved the Giants and I want to say the Rockies, first 2-game series there before they went to Arizona, which starts on April 7th. Those games will be made up at some point. They're divisional games, so that's good. Seems like it'll be pretty easily made up, so that's good news as well. But look, Peter Seidler, he's spending money. I'm not concerned with Peter Seidler. I wasn't concerned at all throughout this whole process. Like, he is someone that is trying to win. He's not an Orioles or a Pirates roster. You know, he's trying to win. This is the Padres' window of contention. This is the time that they need to win. And he's going to do that. You know, he spent money on Machado. He's brought in, he's obviously eating Hosmer's contract right now. You know, he's probably going to extend Musgrove. They're in the running for Suzuki, Castellanos, and Bryant. So Peter's definitely in it for the right reasons. What I like about it, he said, we are well positioned to finalize our roster. So they're trying to put the finishing touches. And by that, you know, Preller and the front office, they took their time. They took their time to prepare and have a good plan for how they're going to attack right now, how they're going to attack when the lockout ends, which it has ended, how they're going to attack that, who they want to call first, who they really want to show interest in, if they want to finish up that Nick Martinez deal, which it looks like it will be done. I was listening to Kevin Acee earlier today on Extra 1360, and he was saying that that deal's pretty much done. The paperwork just wasn't in, so looks like that deal will resume. that deal will get into place. But I'll redirect the question to you guys. The question on the ticker below at the bottom. Who do you want the Padres to sign or trade for? We can discuss that. Again, you can click that link that I showed in the comments. You can go find that link that I just put on the screen right here. You can go find that link if you want to come talk to me in the live stream. And right now, just still waiting. Still just waiting for moves to happen. Interesting MLB Network coverage. I mean, I don't have the volume on, but they're just showing a bunch of tweets from players saying, "Let's go, baseball's back," and all that. Another player, today is a good day, yeah. We'll get to your questions here. Just checking Twitter. Whenever I'm kind of pausing, just checking Twitter just to see, keep you guys updated on stuff. I see a question about Castellanos. I'll get to that in a moment. Again, it's cool, and it's weird at the same time that we're going to be playing a full 162 game season. Based on the talks yesterday and them canceling a second week of games, talking about how those games won't be moved up and all that. Fernie Vargas, what's up, man? I want them to sign Castellanos. That's what a lot of guys want. That's what a lot of fans want. And I'd be in on that. That's the second one that I want. Castellanos, he doesn't have the versatility that Bryant does. Suzuki, from what I know, he doesn't have the same versatility. But look, they're all good options. They're all good options. Castellanos, I mean, he's like the big, I guess, like sexy pick, right? Because of the big year that he had last year. And Suzuki's not like the known commodity out of Japan. And Bryant Didn't have as good of a year as Castellanos did last year. So I could see why fans, want to point more towards Castellanos. But at the same, I'm just a big fan of Bryant's versatility. And he's shown that he can play well in a big time atmosphere, big games. He's played well in his career at Petco. Had that homer in the All-Star game in 2016. Obviously played at USD. Maybe it's the emotional ties there, but I mean, any of those three would be good. Castellanos played in a hitter's park. Numbers will go down. That's fair too. That is fair. I think that the hitter's park is a little overrated, that stance, because he did hit okay on the road last year from what I remember. Let's see here. Looking up his splits, 3.2 WAR. I mean, okay, so he played 69 games at home, 69 on the road. Yeah. I guess, man, the road splits aren't very good now looking at it. Hit 260 on the road, 359 at home. RBIs, he had almost 50 more RBIs at home than on the road. So, that could contribute to it. Or maybe he really just liked hitting in Cincinnati. Who knows? I think Cincinnati's the smallest park. Yeah, I think you're right on that. Suzuki, Cruz, and Jansen would be ideal. Jansen, I think, no shot. I don't think he'd go to the Padres, being a Dodger his whole career, winning a World Series. I don't think he'd do that. And I think Preller, to be quite honest, isn't even that, interested in him. I don't think he would be. He'd concern me more than Melancon would if we're comparing the two. Let's see. Suzuki and Cruz ideal as well, with Jansen. Again, I'm not big on Jansen. Suzuki, I'm in on. Cruz, I'm in on. So I like those two. That's probably a pretty good cheap combination, or at least cheaper than Castellanos and Bryant. One of those two, if you pair it with Nelson Cruz. Look, Nelson Cruz is going to have competition. It's going to be like a one-year deal. $15 million, somewhere around that. So I think it'll be tough to get him, but I think he had interest. I think he did have real interest in going to the Padres at the trade deadline last year. He had that tweet earlier this offseason about potentially joining the Padres. I think someone had an edit of him with Machado and Tatis or something. So I think he has interest in coming here. The only time I will go for Freddie Freeman is if the Dodgers go for him. Got to keep him down, break the bank in that case, but money don't grow on trees. Well, it grows on trees for the Dodgers. I mean, they have endless money, it seems like. They just gave Trevor Bauer, $40 million a year, and he's not going to even play for them, I wouldn't think. But if you're going to go after Freddie Freeman just because the Dodgers are going after him, that's not a good idea. I don't think that ends well. I mean, that doesn't end well. Because who knows, even if, I know the Dodgers probably want him, but what if then they see that you're doing that and they're like, okay, we'll let the Padres have him. We'll just keep pumping up the price. You know, that could be the case as well. I don't think you go after someone just because your rivals, you don't want your rival to get them. That's, at some point, you have to have belief in your team. I know Freddie Freeman's great. He's the best first baseman in the league right now, in my opinion. But if you sign Freeman, it's not a trade, so it's not like you're just going to be able to dump Hosmer all of a sudden. So you're still going to have a big problem there. So I don't really know what that does. Freeman's not coming to the Padres. Let me just check Twitter. I did want to get to okay, there's more questions here. What's our payroll at right now? Good question. I can look that up for you. Let's see. Padres. All right, let me share my screen for you. All right, let's get this ad out of here. Oh, it's a video. All right. So it looks like active payroll a little less than 185 million. Luxury tax, I already have it updated, so that's good at 230 million. Looks like, so according to Spot Track, they have $20 million about in tax space. So that gives you a year of Suzuki and a bench bat, the Tommy Pham maybe, if for that 20 million. Because I think Bryant's going to cost more than 20 million. Castellanos will. Suzuki's probably in like the 12 to 15 million dollar range. You could get Nelson Cruz and a bench bat with that. Another reliever. Again, I think they might go after Tommy Pham and get him as a bench bat. They need more bench bats as well, so that's definitely something that they're going to look at. But yeah, just looking at every just salary-wise, I mean, you got Manny making $32 million. He deserves it. Myers, 22, $20 million base salary. Hosmer, $20 million. Doesn't deserve it. He's probably only going to earn like $2-3 million of that this year. I mean, they gave him $80 million already, and he's only been worth $4.5 million. Drew Pomerantz, $10 million. I mean, he's got to prove himself. Just got to stay healthy. I mean, he could be the closer. He could end up being the Padres closer, but he's just got to stay healthy. There's no guarantee that he's going to stay healthy, you know? And then Clevenger, obviously that's a health question, $8 million. Profar, Kim. Really? Tatis, his contract doesn't kick in this year? I thought it kicked in this year, maybe next year. 2025 is kind of when it like really kicks in with the 20 million each year. So we got him through 2034. So another good 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 more years. 13 more years of the best shortstop in baseball. I like that. Hopefully he can stay healthy. We'll see. I mean, Tatis, it's you love watching him. I love watching him. Everyone does. He just has to stay healthy, you know. So Fernie, that's what the payroll looks like. They're rivals. Imagine having to face Freeman every time we play them. I understand that, but you still have Hosmer on the roster. What are you gonna? So if you have Freeman and Hosmer, what are you doing? That's a lot of money you're paying Hosmer to do nothing. I know he does nothing, but I don't see them doing that. Imagine having to face Freeman every time we played them. Okay. Imagine having to face Machado, Tatis, Cronenworth, Grisham when he's on, Myers if he plays good, Suzuki. I mean, that's pretty dang good. Nelson Cruz. That's pretty good. I don't think they need Freddie Freeman. I think they need Hosmer to work with the new coaching staff, be a little more open-minded, and just get more power in the lineup. DH, outfield, and then you'll go from there and try to hide Hosmer in the lineup a little bit. It's not about outpaying rivals. Freddie Freeman's great, but they already spent that money on Hosmer. What's up, Hog? What's up, my man? Hey, if you want to come on here, you're free, man. Go ahead. I can drop that link in here. Anyone who wants to come on, you can click that link or copy and paste that link in, and you can come talk to me live. Let's see here. Are there any good available pitchers? I don't think pitchers is what the Padres are going to be going after. I mean, sure, we can go through the list, but like I went through this earlier, Jerry, so you probably weren't here, but you got Clevenger coming back, you got Morhone coming back, you got Weathers coming back, you got Paddock coming back. That's a lot of guys there. You have Lamet, maybe has something. You have Musgrove, obviously, at his best year. He's only getting better every year if you look at his numbers. You have Darvish, obviously. You have Snell pitching like the best Blake Snell ever the last like month and a half of last season. I think they're good on starting pitching. Bullpen's more of a question mark, but last year, first half of last year, the bullpen was great. Tim Hill was great. Austin Adams was okay. Melanson was unstoppable almost. Pomerantz just needs to stay healthy. I know that's a big question mark, but I like Luis Garcia. I like Robert Suarez. I think they're okay in the bullpen. And, you know, Weathers, Paddock, Morhone, all those guys that I named, they're not all going to – it's only one guy that can get to that fifth spot. So, like, those guys are going to have to be in the bullpen. You know, they're going to move to the bullpen. So that I think that only makes the bullpen stronger. So good available pitchers. I mean, Kershaw's out there for starters. Carlos Rodon's out there. But I think for relievers, you know, you have Kenley Jansen. Blake Trinan's not available. I can look up. I'll look that up for you right now, actually. Free agents. Let's see here. It's kind of like I got to get back into full baseball mode because of the dang lockout. All right, let's see here. So here is the pitchers. Horacio Iglesias, Kendall Graveman, Hector Neris. These are relievers. And this is their salary over the course of their career, I believe. $14.5 million, $8 million, $8.5 million for Hector Neris. Aaron Loop. He's with the – okay, those guys already signed. My God. My bad. I got to fix the statuses. Available. All right, Kenley, Andrew Miller. He was the executive committee guy that you saw in the parking lot in Florida. Trevor Rosenthal, former Padre. Brad Hand, former Padre. Dylan Patansis, Jurius Familia, Ottavino, Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly's an option, intriguing option. Archie Bradley, Sergio Romo. Oh, my goodness, he's still going, 39 years old. Ian Kennedy, Matt Strong. Obviously, Padres let him go. Hansel Robles, Colin McHugh, Trevor Cahill, Josh Tomlin, Keone Kella, former Padre. Hunter Strickland, Brad Boxberger, former Padre. I'm pretty much just going through former Padres right now. Dan Altavilla, couldn't stay healthy. Sam McWilliams, former Padre. Junior Guerra was with the Angels. Matt Bush, former Padre. That sucked. That didn't work out for us. So, yeah, there you go. That's pretty much the relievers. Again, so it's not totally strong, but I don't think the pitcher is the first priority that they need to go after. Hopefully we're entering a hitter's era with the sticky stuff ban and banning the shift. Yeah, I agree. Garrett, I mean, you can just look at a prime example, Garrett Cole. I mean, he absolutely sucked after the sticky stuff crackdown last year. So the Yankees are going to love having to pay that guy $30 million a year for the next 7 years or whatever. Have fun doing that. Mariners hype video. I don't know what you're doing, Nick. This is a Padres channel. I mean, yeah, I know we gave you Ty France. Have fun with him. I mean, I wish we had him. That would make our lives a whole lot easier. Still nothing really on MLB Network. Padres home opener at 6:40 p.m., by the way, to start this year usually. Sunday games at 1 like usual, unless it's a primetime game. I'm going to tweet out on Twitter, man, where are the moves? So the lockout ends and there's no moves. There's no activity. Nelson Cruz put out, so Andrew McCutchen on Twitter, he said, "Welp, where am I signing?" In response to this lockout ending. Nelson Cruz quote tweeted him and said, "Good question," with the emoji. Tony Gwynn Jr. replied, "San Diego." to Nelson. Mike Clevenger. I've seen Mike Clevenger over by Point Loma Nazarene. He was surprised I recognized him. He's pretty easy to recognize. It's Mike Clevenger. I mean, long hair, beach type vibes, mustache. I would have recognized him, but again, I'm a diehard Padres fan, so diehard baseball fan, really. I mean, it's now 2 hours and 7 minutes of nothing, really. Just reading Rob Manfred's quotes and talking about what the Padres might do, answering your questions. It hasn't been as much activity as I thought there would be, but I want to stay on until the Padres make a move. Now, that might end up being for 5 hours. I think I was expecting immediately the Nick Martinez thing to happen and say, hey, they reached an agreement, because they already had an agreement happening before the lockout. Yeah. Oh, you're in El Paso, Jerry? Ty France, yeah. I mean, what kind of pissed me off the most about that Ty France thing is that, according to Ken Rosenthal, AJ Preller told Ty France that he was going to be a part of their future, a big part of their future, like 2 weeks before the deadline when he got dealt. So he obviously didn't hold himself to that, at least for the truth. Apparently, the Mariners are going hard for Bryant. I did see that. There's been some talk. I guess I saw it somehow on Twitter about Chris Bryant. You know, is that what the Mariners are going to go with? Seattle needs a pick-me-up. I mean, my goodness. I mean, the Seahawks are kind of my NFL team a little bit, them and the Vikings, because obviously no Chargers. And Russ probably still is my favorite NFL player. And, yeah, that sucks for Seattle too. That hurt seeing Russ move. That's probably the end of the era, probably should have been. But Seattle and the Mariners, they need a pick-me-up. You know, they had a great year last year. Ty France blossomed, had pretty good pitching. Kyle Seager obviously played really well and then retired. So they need a third baseman. I think Ty France can play third. But he was playing first, if I recall. But, yeah, picking up Chris Bryant for them would be big. Big pick-me-up for the city of Seattle. So I want Bryant, but if he goes somewhere else, I think Seattle would be cool to see him at. You know, watching games in Seattle, watching those games on TV, on MLB TV from Seattle last year that I was totally locked in on because the Padres weren't in it. And Seattle was playing Oakland, I think, with the playoff spot almost on the line. Obviously, it came down to the last game of the regular season, last day, right? And the A's the A's beat the Mariners, which ended the A's playoff hopes, the Mariners playoff hopes. But, yeah, they were really close. Bryant would definitely really help, especially with the expanded playoffs. And that was last year when, the Red Sox were good. The Yankees, they still had multiple teams make the playoffs out of the American League East. And the Astros probably will take a step back with no Correa. A's probably will take a step back without Bob Melvin. They're probably going to trade Matt Olson. Probably going to trade someone else pitching-wise. So Mariners can go jump. Yeah, they can jump guys in the West. Just north of El Paso. Don't look for minor league help. I've heard. Yeah, Gore is like, Ruben Niebla is like, come on, be our savior. Like help. We need Gore to be good because especially if Darvish and Snell don't come back after 2 years or somehow they don't get a deal done with Musgrove and Paddock and Weathers can't stay healthy and Lamet can't stay healthy, all of a sudden the Padres pitching depth that I've been talking about on paper, all of a sudden it's like not there anymore, So hopefully Gore can definitely contribute in some way. Padres versus Blue Jays, World Series prediction 2022. That's interesting. Blue Jays got Kevin Gausman before the lockout. See, I do remember things that happened before the lockout. I was tuned in and just like I always am, watching MLB Network and all that. Although I do view MLB Network, I'll say, I do view MLB Network in a little bit different light. Because of when they let go of Rosenthal, it's like, all right, now Major League Baseball is really controlling this because Rosenthal said something bad about Manfred, and now you want him off the network, and you're just saying, we didn't renew our contract, we're going in a different direction. Well, he was literally the face of MLB Network in terms of reporting and stuff. You think of him as a reporter, and then Harold Reynolds for analysts, Mark DeRosa, Kevin Millar. So he was one of the faces of MLB Network. So you didn't just part ways with him. But back to Blue Jays, Padres. Padres I'm in on. I don't think the Blue Jays are there yet. I'm still not convinced about their bullpen. Kirby Yates, that move didn't work out for them last year. Padres obviously knew what they were doing there. They probably had the medicals and the Blue Jays didn't. And that's why the Blue Jays went in on Kirby and then Kirby got hurt, unfortunately. Where is Kirby? Is he with the Phillies? I don't know if he signed it. But hopefully good luck to Kirby Yates this year, as long as he's not playing the Padres. But in terms of American League right now, I mean, it's impossible to make a World Series prediction because, I mean, over the next 3 days, you'd think before spring training, it's going to be absolute mayhem. Moves all over the place. So we'll see, after then is probably a better time, right, to evaluate when or who's going to make the World Series and all that. So we'll see. Let's see here. Please stop talking NFL. Yeah, I'm not going to. Don't worry. Yeah, that just kind of led me off into that. I'm not talking NFL. Don't worry. I've definitely lost my love for the NFL. They're third on my list now. We'll keep talking baseball. Don't worry. Seiya Suzuki and a big trade is probably what will probably be the course. Again, I'm in on Seiya Suzuki. It's $12, $15 million a year. I had an episode on that. You can go watch or listen to that I had during the lockout about if he's worth that. Looked up his numbers on FanGraphs, his value, and he is worth that. I don't know if I'd give him 5 years, like some predictors are saying, maybe 3 or 4 years, like the Kim deal, because he's supposed to be better offensively, but maybe teams are willing to offer 5 years and he's going to take that. So maybe it's just a matter of how many years other teams are going to give him, and the Padres are going to have to match that if they really want him. A big trade, I don't know if a big trade just because of how less time the Padres have, before spring training. I know deals, 300 free agents aren't going to be signed in the next 3 days. That would be absolute craziness. That's not going to happen. But I think the majority of them will. But there will be trades. There will be free agent signings that probably happen during spring training, during the season maybe, that they just didn't get to, that weren't priorities, maybe smaller deals. But a big trade, I don't think is going to happen. I'd be stunned. At least over the next 3 days. I mean, Preller thinks outside the box, but I think that free agency is probably the more likelier route because they don't have to give up prospects. And Preller is reluctant to give up top prospects, Hassel, Gore, Abrams. He's willing to give up Gore or Campusano, but definitely Abrams and Hassel. Doesn't want to give those two guys up. And I think teams like the A's and a Matt Olson deal, something like that, they're going to want one of those two guys. So I just don't see a big trade happening. But yes, Seiya Suzuki could happen. Do the Padres make a move for an established closer? I don't think so. I think they're going to go into it kind of like last year with a bunch of names in the hat, a bunch of names that could be the closer. Luis Garcia, Robert Suarez. Who else? Drew Pomerantz, Emilio Pagan. But I don't see them making a move for a big closer unless it's the trade deadline. Kimbrel, definitely not. His salary's like $18-20 million. There's no way they're doing that for Kimbrel, who's past his prime. It's not going to happen. He was good last year. I'm not saying he wasn't, but no thanks. They need to spend money on offense. Suzuki and trade for Olson. Yeah, you could trade for Olson all you want, but are the A's going to accept Hosmer? Are they going to accept Hosmer and a prospect not named Abrams or Hassel? Are they going to accept Hosmer and pay most of his contract or pay 40% of it or 30% of it? Where's that line for the Padres? How much are they willing to eat of Hosmer's contract in a deal for that? And do the Padres really have the best trade offer? You got to remember, there's going to be Matt Olson is an all-star caliber first baseman, Gold Glove, all of it. So there are going to be many teams that are interested in him. It's not just going to be the Padres. So, you can say all you want, go get Olson. Yeah, I'd love Olson. That would be great, big upgrade. But I think there's other teams that would be willing to give up their top prospects that the Padres aren't willing to do. I think the Yankees would, especially if they get like Carlos Correa or someone like that. They'd be willing to get one of their two top shortstop prospects. And that would really be appealing to the A's over the Padres not giving up Abrams because they lost Marcus Semien. They didn't even give him that qualifying offer. Now Semien's with the Rangers in their division. It'd be nice to have a shortstop. I don't know who their shortstop is right now. Matt Chapman and Matt Olson are probably on the trade block. They probably want someone young who they can have under contract for the next 6 years. So I don't see Olson happening, unfortunately. Gore starting was a big deal for El Paso, but he disappeared after just a couple of appearances. Yeah, because of his mechanics. They sent him all the way back down to Peoria because he just couldn't find it. His mechanics were out of whack. Last time I saw, he was good in the Arizona Fall League. So hopefully Ruben Niebla can build on that with him. Obviously, that's our hope, because if that happens, then it opens up more of a possibility to be okay with Darvish or Snell leaving in 2 years. Or, I'm not even going to bring the Musgrove thing up. I think they're getting an extension done. But if Gore works out and improves and becomes the guy we think he could have become a few years back when he was the top pitching prospect in baseball, if Niebla can get him there, then I think that if Weathers or Lamet don't stay healthy, then it's not as big of a deal. Losing Cal Quantrill in the Clevenger deal, not that big of a deal because you have Gore. So Gore turning around would be huge. Yankees get Freddie Freeman, we get Olson. That's a possibility. But again, if the Yankees get Freeman, that doesn't mean that was just one example. There are other teams that would be interested in Olson beyond the Padres that would have better packages. The Dodgers still have a loaded farm system. And if they're interested in Freeman, you'd think that they'd be interested in Matt Olson, and they'd be interested in keeping him away from the Padres or the Giants or other teams like that. I know the Giants have Brandon Belt, but that was just another team that came to mind. Preller is willing to what? Willing to what? He's willing to part with Hassel Abrams? No, he's not. He's willing to part with Gore. His last shot, if they don't make the playoffs, if they don't make the playoffs and it wasn't because of big injuries like this, or if it was because even if Tatis stayed healthy the whole year and Machado did and all that, and they still missed the playoffs in an expanded postseason when there were 7 playoff teams in the National League, 1 from the National League West automatically, which could be the Padres, and then you have 3 chances for the wild card. Yeah, that's going to be hard. I mean, Seiler's committed to him, and he didn't even give – last time I heard, he didn't even say that the Padres had to make the playoffs for Preller to keep his job. But, at this point, it's come on. This is time to win. It's time to win. You got to make the playoffs. I don't think it's his last shot, to be quite honest. I think Seiler loves him. I like Preller too, but I think it would literally have to be everyone stays healthy and the players, and it's just worst case scenario. The Giants somehow win over 100 games again. The Dodgers do, and the Mets do really well. Braves do really well. They have Freeman or something. Phillies make the playoffs. And then the Padres don't. Yeah, that would be bad. But I think Preller goes beyond this year. Do you think Hosmer's offensive numbers can improve at DH? I don't think he really is. Look, I didn't play baseball at the major league level, obviously. I'm 19. Don't play in college. But in high school, if I made an error on defense and I went to hit, would I be bummed? Yeah, but when you're in the box, you're not, and the pitcher's winding up, you're not thinking, oh, crap, I made an error, and now I can't focus at the plate while this pitcher's coming. You focus on the pitch. So I think that thing about him mentally not being there with defensive errors, I think would be a little overblown, and that's people that don't really understand, are not really thinking about what happens, what's the thought process when you really step into the box. So that would be me. So I think that's a little overrated. And I don't think the Padres want him at DH. They want Nelson Cruz. They want maybe even Jorge Soler on a 1-year deal. I don't think Kyle Schwarber, because I don't think they want to lock themselves up with a DH long term. I think it would be better to use that longer term for more of a rotating position. You can have James Wood there eventually when he comes up. You can have Robert Hassel there for off days eventually when he comes up. You have Manny there, who loves playing every day anyway. Give him some off days. You can have Tatis there, which is huge if he's nursing a shoulder injury or something but can still swing. So I think long term, I don't think Schwarber's the fit there. So did I talk about the DH? I'm doing that a little bit right now. Yeah, I think Nelson Cruz is definitely the guy you need to go after. No doubt about that. Most of the DH bats right now, I crafted out my lineup that I would do. And I had, I think, Jorge Alfaro as the DH with Hosmer at first, because I think that's just the way that they're going to run with it if this is the roster right now. Obviously, it's not going to be the roster right now. It's just not going to happen. There's no way that the lineup's going to be Tatis, Jake, Manny, and then not much after that. Myers, Alfaro, Hosmer, Nola, Profar, Grisham, because there's no DH, so I'd have Grisham maybe hitting 9th. I like him leadoff or 2nd. Maybe that's right, left, that switching of the side of the box they're hitting at, that type of thing. But DH, I think Nelson Cruz is who they go after. Gore, Campy, or even Hassel, I can see Preller move. No. Not Hassel. They're not moving Hassel to get Matt Olson. I'm sorry. Matt Olson has only 2 more years of control. Robert Hassel III. Maybe I'm higher on Robert Hassel III than AJ is, but Robert Hassel III, for me, is almost as untouchable as CJ Abrams is. I mean, look at the dang outfield the Padres have right now. Will Myers is a free agent at the end of the year. They don't have a left fielder right now. Profar's not a left fielder. They need an outfielder, a young outfielder with 6 years of control to come up, and Hassel's that guy. I'm not trading him for Olsen for 2 years of Olsen. That's not happening. When I can, worst case scenario, put an all-star at first base in Jake Cronenworth, and you can have Ha-Seong Kim at second base. Or you can have Profar there, who at least puts together good at-bats if you don't want Hosmer playing. I'm not going to give up Hassel for Olson. I know Olson's great, but it's 2 years. And I know you could say, Ben, well, this is their window of contention. It is. But you want that contention window to be to be open as long as you possibly can. And Hassel can be in the big leagues next year, I think. So he would be here for the window of contention. His estimated arrival, I think, is 2023, so next year, when I talked to Kevin Charity and Mad Friars a few weeks ago. So I'm not giving up on Hassel. Gore Camposano, yes, he would give up. I would give up on one of those two. Camposano, he's just blocked. Yeah, he's a DH candidate. He might even be a better DH candidate than Jorge Alfaro, but he didn't look good at the major league level earlier last year. I know he improved his load and everything at the plate and all that, but I think he's more of a trade candidate. So let's see. CJ Abrams might be a wild card for our lineup that we're not considering. He's not to start, not immediately. He's not immediately going to be a starter for the Padres in 2022. That's not going to happen. He needs more at-bats at the minor league level. Go watch or listen to the Kevin Charity interview that I talked extensively about with Hassel and Abrams and all that, about them. He needs more at-bats. I'm big on Abrams, but end of next year, maybe all-star break, something like that. But after the injury and all that, I think they want to make sure he stays healthy so they don't start his clock time, his service time. Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see him starting the year. What are your expectations for Cleve this year? Interesting. I think it's going to be a pitch limit to start the season, innings limit. Maybe not innings limit the whole year. Maybe it's just progression, see how he feels. But I'd expect him to be the Clevenger we saw when we traded for him, those few starts before he got hurt, where he was amazing. Remember that one game, that day game? It was like 7 innings. I think he was a complete game, and then he ended up getting hurt a little bit after that. I mean, he was pitching like the real Clevenger. That's like the Clevenger we traded for. That's who I expect. I don't have any reason to think otherwise. So that's what I'm going to expect. I'm going to expect Clevenger to be Clevenger as long as he's healthy. He's looked good at the videos that he's posted, so we'll see. In terms of specific numbers, I mean, ERA under 4, hopefully. He's slotted as my 4th starter right now because I want my first 3 guys, Snell, Darvish, and Musgrove, because they were here last year. Looks like they're healthy. I know Clevenger is, but I want those top 3 guys to be really healthy going in and not have any limits on them. I think Clevenger, they'll put some type of limit on him, pitch count maybe, something like that to start the year, especially with shortened spring training. Let's see. Preller was willing to move to get rid of Hosmer for Olson. Willing to move who? Hassel? I don't think so. I think for the Joey Gallo trade last year, he was maybe floating it out there, but then ended up being unwilling to move Hassel. But Abrams, yeah, you're right. Abrams is definitely untouchable, yeah. I think Abrams and Hassel for me are the 2 untouchables. That's not happening for me. I'm not giving up Hassel or Abrams. Those are 5-tool potential players that will be on the team and start for the team, in my opinion, when they're still contending. So, yeah, I'm not giving up Hassel. Not happening. All right, I've been on here for 2.5 hours and nothing has happened in terms of moves. We're 2 hours since the lockout ended officially and rosters started again. You know, The players' faces popped up on MLB.com. Max Scherzer will be at Mets camp tomorrow on day one, even though it's voluntary. We'll see who shows up for the Padres. I think Musgrove will be there. I saw him in Arizona earlier. Today, I think, on social media earlier this week somewhere. Good question. What's one bold free agent prediction that might shock the world? Padres-wise? Man, Padres-wise, I mean, saying Bryant to the Padres isn't very – that's more like a dream for me. That's not really bold. I think bold, like out of nowhere, I don't know. Preller makes another catcher move. I mean, he has so many catchers now. I don't think he's going to acquire more pitching. Nick Martinez isn't a bold move that's going to happen. Man, I'm trying to think of free agents here that would be bold moves. I mean, I'd be interested in taking a chance on Andrew Miller if he was going to try to do something with the bullpen. I wouldn't be interested in Brad Hand, to be honest. I'll tell you that. Joe Kelly, maybe, would be interesting against the Dodgers. I'll tell you what. An outfielder that I think people aren't really talking about is Andrew McCutchen. I'd be interested in bringing him on as a good fourth outfielder. So I guess that could be my bold signing. I'm a big Kutch fan. So I'll say that. Let's see here. Bold and schooling wild be Kershaw. Yeah, we're not getting Kershaw. He's not coming here. He wouldn't come to the Padres after all those years with the Dodgers, winning a World Series there. There's a better chance of him just retiring than coming here, I think. Would I want him, to be honest? We'll go back to this. Would I want him? That would be funny to piss off Dodger fans, but no, he's not coming. Padres may have to reap what they sow with Hosmer. If we don't acquire Nelson Cruz, then we might be seeing a Hosmer, Myers, Tatis DH mix. Tatis is not going to be in the DH mix unless he's hurt, I don't think, unless you just want to give him a day off at some point. I don't see him being in the mix there. As for Hosmer and Myers, Myers is the right fielder right now. They have two outfielders right now. Profar's the starting left fielder. I don't even count him. So, yeah, I don't think so right now. Myers is an outfielder. Hosmer's more likely, depending if they're willing to just put Kim or Profar at second base. So we'll see. But no, Myers and Tatis aren't DHing it, I don't think. Kershaw would be bold, but I think that's too bold. I don't think it's even a possibility. I'd give Pham a second chance. To start? No, not to start for me. Bench? Yeah. $4 or $5 million. Here you go. He wasn't terrible, I don't think, at least the second half of the year. But I'm not going to have him start. I think that would be a failure if Pham is the starting left fielder. You strike out on all three of those big outfielders. You don't even bring in Jock Peterson or Jorge Soler or Eddie Rosario. They need a better left fielder, more power, more consistent than Tommy. But bench, yeah. I'd rather have McCutchen than I disagree, Daniel. I'd rather get McCutchen than get Pham. I know Pham stays healthy pretty well. He works his butt off. But for me, maybe it's just I want to try something new. I know McCutchen isn't new. He's a veteran, but he still has more pop than Pham, I think. He had over 20 homers last year, I think. Keep Profar roaming around. Yeah, he's a utility guy. Definitely not starting left fielder. McCutchen's underrated. I think he's a good fourth outfielder. And he can start. He's shown the ability of doing that. Past his prime, but, he's still okay. I'd only sign Pham as a fourth out. Yep, I believe. I'm on that same page. I'd only sign Pham as a fourth outfielder as well. I think they need more pop. Last question of the night. Appreciate you, JK. Let's see. Anything you and the crew are planning to do at Gaslamp Ball? Interesting question. I'm kind of the head guy at the site right now in terms of content creation. So if you have any ideas, let me know. I'm doing the podcast consistently right now. I love what I'm doing with the podcast. Going live like this is really cool. It would be cooler if something would happen right now. It's great answering your questions, but I want to react to some moves. I thought Preller was going to be more active. It's been 2 freaking hours since the lockout started. Or the lockout ended, excuse me. I thought he was going to make moves. But in terms of content, it's going to be a lot of, who the Padres could sign, I think. That's probably what's going to be upcoming. We could go live more if that's what you guys want. If you guys like me going live, I'll definitely go live more. But in terms of me, it's just giving you guys consistent content. It's not like any big sweeping ideas. Maybe some roundtables with the guys. I'm thinking about talking with some guys from other teams' blogs and all that. But for me, it's just consistent creating content for you guys, just communicating with you guys in the comments. I enjoy doing that. It's Padres. It's fun. We don't have to do this whole lockout crap anymore. So glad no ghost win, back to regular extra innings. And let's see. And are the doubleheaders back to 9 innings? Doubleheaders are back to 9 innings. I did see that. Yep. I'm glad no ghost one as well. I think that was stupid. I didn't like that the players were trying to push that, at least the executive committee. I get you play a long season and you want an advantage, but that was not really fair. Like we saw last season that the NL West, you had two teams winning over 100 games. So you're saying that if one of those teams had to play in that wild card series, maybe they had an injury or something. And now you're still in a 1-0 deficit. It wouldn't be those teams, but let's say one of those teams is hosting, they're up 1-0. So the team the team that they're playing is like only a 3-game difference between those two because the division's that good or something. or the league's that good. Well, then why would that just doesn't seem fair for that team that's only 3 games behind them to go down a game. And then what if they have someone hurt and then you're down 1-0 already? It's like you have no chance. You have to win the series, best of 3? So if it's a 1-game lead, then you have to win the 2 games right there. Like that's just dumb to me. I think the seeding, the 2 byes that they're going to have is good for the 12-team playoff. That's your incentive. But giving you a 1-0 lead already, that's just stupid. That's stupid. Yeah, good baseball talk. Yep, I agree. Finally. Tatis's shoulder, yeah. I didn't like that he didn't have the surgery. I thought he should have. Maybe you could make the argument that it limited his mobility and all that, but at the same time, it's like, look, I want you to stay healthy. Like, I don't need you diving all over the place. Like, that's great and all, but I need your bat in the lineup for 140, 50 games in the season, you know? Maybe the DH will help if they use that DH position with more flexibility. Love to read about the new direction in player development. Maybe, yeah. Again, I asked Kevin Charity about that on the Mad Friars, of Mad Friars on Talking Friars on the podcast a few weeks ago, so you can go listen or watch that. I put some stuff on Keith Law and Fangraphs and stuff, I think. They're prospect rankings. But, yeah, we can get into that a little bit. I'll try to reach out to some Padres guys about that. And I did talk to Kevin Kopps, by the way, the minor leaguers, so you can go look at that as well. We need a veteran coming off that bench for sure. Like Coach John Contreras says on 97.3 The Fan, we got a lot of young guys. I don't agree with a lot of things that Coach Contreras says, to be quite honest. And I think a lot of Padres Twitter agrees with me when I say that. Him complaining about players wanting more money, players that perform really well wanting more money, and comparing them to plumbers, in which that argument makes no sense. But anyway, talking about the veteran coming off the bench, yeah, that's why I like Andrew McCutchen as a 4th outfield option. I'll be okay with Tommy Pham. Nobody's doing anything now, trades or signings. Not that I know of. I'm looking at Twitter constantly. Whenever I'm pausing, you guys, that's me looking at Twitter. I don't see anything. JP or Morosi tweeted 6 minutes ago, free agency talks are, quote, extremely, end quote, busy, in the words of one agent. We're only 2 hours into the market, busy weekend ahead. So the weekend could be when we see a lot of these moves happen. So maybe I'll go live then. I'll go live definitely. Maybe it says recording a podcast and stuff if the Padres get a big move. But I was planning on just continuing to answer your questions, continue to sit here and talk until something happened. But looks like nothing's really happening right now. So maybe I'll give it another 15 minutes and we hit the 3-hour mark of me live streaming. Because it's not like it's a radio show. I don't have any commercial breaks. So I've been doing this for 3 hours straight with you guys, and nothing's happening. My luck, something happens right when I get off of it. So I'll come back on then maybe, but we'll see. If there's no other questions, in the next 15 minutes or so. Last weekend, I was at a doubleheader for New Mexico State. Announced 2 9-inning games, but the umpires walked off after 7. That has nothing to do with Major League Baseball, but yeah, that's weird. Umpires just walking off after 7 in the first game, 7 innings in the first game. What, did they have like a date that they had to get to or something? What the heck? Anyone know if the competitive balance tax was raised? Yes, this year it's raised from $210 million to $230 million. All right, let me double check that. Yep, $230 million. And it will go up eventually to $244 million on that fifth year, the final year, 2027 of the CBA. And then they have to redo it again. So who knows if we'll have a lockout then. That's a long way away, though, so that's good. I'll worry about Preller if trades start coming in and no Preller within that hour. I don't know if I'll worry. I mean, I guess it depends on the trades. Like, is the trade a power hitting outfielder, a DH? Is it Matt Olson off the board? You know, then maybe. But if it's like if it's for a shortstop, you know, the Yankees trade for a shortstop or something, why would you be worried? Like that has nothing to do with the Padres. So. Let's see here. Won't that help with the Hosmer Albatross contract? What? The competitive balance tax? Yes and no, because right now, even with the $230 million, with the $230 million on the CBT, the threshold, they're still with the Hosmer contract. They're $15 million away, I think. $20 million away from that. $20 million, according to Spot Track earlier. They're $20 million away with that Hosmer deal. I was just double checking. Sorry. So I don't think it's going to help that much. I think even if it was at 220 or whatever, 210, I think that they'd still make another move and say, look, we're trying to contend here. Dodgers are taking a step back. It's our time to go do it. I'll pay the tax. Fans are going to show up anyway. But I don't think it helps that much. I mean, it helps that they can stay under, but I don't think it helps that too terribly much. No. All right, we are 2 hours and about 50 minutes into this live stream. Hope you guys are enjoying this. Let's see. It might help to move him. It might. You mean another team? If they move Hosmer? If they move Hosmer to another team might be more willing to take that contract on because of the luxury tax. They have more room. Yeah, I could see that. But I don't think teams are going to look at that and say, hey, we have a chance to get Eric Hosmer, like a 1-0 WAR, like a replacement player. We'll add him only because we have room now on the luxury tax. I don't think that's why they do it. I think it helps. It's an aspect, but I think they do it because they can get Camposano or Gore back, you know? I think that's probably why they would do it. This is kind of interesting. Bill Plaschke, LA Times, just put out what he thinks the Dodgers should do: sign Freddie Freeman, re-sign Clayton Kershaw. I mean, I don't think so. Well, the cut Trevor Bauer part, that might happen. And then Trevor Bauer saying fire Bill Plaschke. Like, I don't get that. He's just mad that he thinks that he should not be on the team. If Fernando stays healthy the whole season, he's going to beat Greg Vaughn's home run record. I don't know about that. I mean, would he have gotten 9 home runs last year? I mean, he had a great year last year. You think that teams would figure him out more next year with more video and all that. And the more he stays healthy, the higher the probability that he goes into a slump. So I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that he does. I mean, he can, but I don't think he will. Hosmer's rep outside of San Diego isn't as bad. Yeah, it isn't as bad because they're not watching the games every night. They don't see that he sucks. They don't see that he drops easy pop-ups in the infield. They remember him as the player in Kansas City 6 years ago, 8 years ago. A lot has changed since then. He's not good. I truly wouldn't attach any of our top 5 prospects. Jump in with Hosmer just to get rid of $5-10 million a year. I'd rather bet on Hosmer and seeing him turn around. I know I just said he sucks, but I'd rather bet on him there and keep Abrams and Hassel. I'm willing to give up Gore or Camposano, but keeping Hassel and Abrams is a priority for me. I'm not going to give up Hosmer at the expense of them. Unless it's with the A's or something and they get Matt Olson with it or something. And we get Matt Olson, we get to give up Hosmer. And if you have to give up Hassel, I mean, I don't know if I'd like that, but I guess I'd be okay with it because they get Olson back. But yeah, no. I'd rather see the new coaching staff and see what they can do with Hos. I know Tony's a legend, but it would be nice to see at least one of our guys hit over 300. Tatis can do that. Jake Cronenworth can do that. Manny can probably do that. I know strikeouts are big now, and the shift is still going to happen. It's still going to be there, but they have guys that can do that. CJ Abrams, when he comes up, he can definitely do that. So that can happen.
Wait, can you not hug your friends, please?
We should focus more on the development of Camposano. Yeah, especially with how many catchers they have right now. I mean, they have Alfaro, Nola, Caratini. That's 3 guys right there. They signed another one to a minor league deal from the Phillies, I think. So, I mean, they have 3 catchers right now. They can always sign someone else to a 1-year deal or something. So, yeah, that's a possibility. I think I'd rather develop Camposanos, keep him in the minor leagues, than put him in the big leagues when he's not ready, waste some of his service time. And because he's not ready and the Padres need to contend, he doesn't get much playing time, and you're wasting his service time. Hosmer's a smart player even if his skills have declined. But how much is that going to get you? If your skills have declined, you still got to be able to hit. You still got to be able to not ground out to second base every time. You still got to be able to not strike out almost every time, it seems like. You still got to be able to catch the ball when Tatis is throwing the ball over from short. Like, It's good to be smart. I know he's smart, but how far is that going to take you on a contending team when they need you to play better? As simple as that. Seeing Olsen in that lineup would be good. Yeah, that would be cool. I think that Olsen is definitely a pipe dream right now because of Hosmer. They're not trading for Olsen and having Hosmer on the roster at the same time. So they're going to need to trade Hosmer in that deal and give up one of those top 4 prospects. And I don't think Preller wants to do that, to be quite honest. I think they're willing to ride with Hosmer, at least to start the season, and say, look, and tell the fans, look, we had like no time to get deals done with other players. Filling out the roster was a higher priority than replacing first base. So that's the way we went. I think that's probably a higher probability of happening. We should hope the Yankees get Freeman. Yeah, because that means he doesn't go to the Dodgers. Other than that, I mean, yeah, I'd be okay with the Yankees getting him. I think what that could do is that would open up Luke Voit as a possibility maybe for the Padres as a DH or a first base candidate. Because I don't think if they sign Freeman, the Yankees, Luke Voit is still there. I don't think, and Luke Voit wants to play. He said that before to the media that he wants to start. He believes he should start on a team. So I think he'd be willing to go elsewhere. And so if the Padres could maybe work a 3-way trade, get Hosmer out, get Voit in, or he's the DH or he's on the bench, and maybe he'd rather be in San Diego over the Yankees because he knows that Freeman's going to play every day, where Hosmer might not, and so he might still get more playing time with the Padres. That's a possibility, I think. So that the Yankees getting Freeman benefits us because he's not on the Dodgers, but I think that also opens up a possibility of Voit being an option for the Padres as well. Also an option for guys that miss out on Freeman, like the Dodgers and like the Atlanta Braves, obviously, if they don't bring him back. If Freeman does go back to Atlanta, Olsen's price would drop. I don't know about that because weren't we considering before the lockout, weren't we assuming that Freddie Freeman's price, we were assuming that Freddie Freeman's going to go to Atlanta, just going to stay in Atlanta. And Olsen's price tag was still high at that point. It was only during the lockout that I think that people's opinions changed and views maybe changed a little bit just because we were bored and just not doing anything, that Freeman could go elsewhere, and there were reports about him going elsewhere. But before the lockout, Olsen's price was pretty high, and Freeman was assumed to go back to Atlanta. So if he goes back to Atlanta, I think Olsen's still going to be coveted. He's going to be coveted by the Yankees if they don't get Rizzo, or if they just want to bring Olsen in for 2 years. He's going to be coveted by the Padres probably. He's going to be coveted by other teams. Will Myers hits best in Arizona at San Francisco, Colorado. Benched over half of the games last year. What's up with the analytics department? What do you mean? Are you trying to say that he shouldn't be playing at home? I mean, at some point, they don't really have much of an option. They don't have an option now if you're trying to say the analytics department should be playing Myers now, or they shouldn't be playing him. They don't have a choice. They have 3 outfielders. They have 2. Profar is not a starting outfielder. So, I mean, the past is the past. You can't do a whole lot about that right now. see. Another reason to keep Myers, I think you're referring to Myers, is because those are all rivals that we face a lot. Oh, okay, so you're making the point that if we get rid of Myers to one of those teams, he could end up hurting us when we're playing them. Yeah, but I don't think the Padres would trade Myers to a division rival. The Diamondbacks are rebuilding. The Rockies are rebuilding. Why would they do that? And then, yeah, we'd have to find 2 outfielders. Not to replace him. I mean, he's one player. You would replace him with 1 outfielder. But they need to find an additional outfielder because they did trade Myers, yeah. Now they'd have only Grisham as a starting outfielder. They'd need 2. Because, I'm sorry, Profar is not a starting outfielder. They tried that in 2020. That was a 2-month season. 2021, Profar didn't have as great of a year. Maybe it's a Kim thing where he just didn't have as many at-bats, but or consistent playing time. He still put together good at-bats, just stats weren't there. And he wasn't very great in left field either, to be quite honest. All right, it's been 3 hours now since I kind of started this. 7 o'clock Eastern was the start of free agency. And there hasn't been a whole lot that's happened. Maybe teams actually did follow the rules and they didn't talk to agents and stuff. And they're just communicating, trying to get updates from agents, the Padres are, on price tags and how that's going to go. How much is Castellanos commanding? How much is Bryant commanding? How much is Seiya Suzuki commanding? Those are all conversations I'm sure that are happening right now. But yeah, JP Morosi said it's extremely busy behind the scenes, so I guess we can only hope that. But usually when it's extremely busy, like winter meetings week, when it's busy, there's a lot of leaks that happen and a lot of people on reporters that, say stuff. Oh, okay, you're saying we need him because, yeah. Well, yeah, I agree with the point about having to find 2 outfielders instead of 1. Instead of only having to find a left fielder, you got to find a right and left fielder. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. All right, last call. Any more questions? If there's a big signing here, I'll go live, but I've been on for 3 hours here, and there hasn't really been much. We've covered a lot. Rob Manfred's comments, Tony Clark, potential lineup, what the Padres could do, Padres offseason priorities. Should they keep Myers? Effect of where Freddie Freeman goes. A lot was covered, and it's been fun. But it's been 3 hours, and I don't know how much longer I want to go with this when there's not a whole lot going on. All right, well, I'll end it here. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this. This was fun again. We'll do it again another time. Yeah, thank you so much, Jerry. All right. Again, I'll keep you guys updated. Let's see. Check one more time. Nope, nothing. All right. Yep, at Talking Friars, Twitter, Instagram. Keep you guys updated. Free agency is underway. Baseball is going to be back. Have a good night.